Hey, it's Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader, and welcome to this Words of Wisdom Wednesday as we take another look at leadership insights from the Bible. Now, whether you're a person of faith or not, the leadership lessons contained in the 66 books spanning thousands of years of human history still speak to us today and give us some leadership insights into the outcomes of good leadership, bad leadership, and poor leadership. So let's jump right into today's lesson, Leadership Insights from the Bible, continuing our story of the look at Joseph. Genesis 39, verses 20 and 21. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. Now, if you'll remember from the prior lesson that we had looking at the life of Joseph, we saw that Joseph had been sold by his brothers into slavery. He had been purchased and became the servant and really the household caretaker for Potiphar, who was the captain of the guard of the Pharaoh. His wife attempted to seduce him, and while Joseph avoided an impropriety, he ended up being falsely accused. And picking up from last week's lesson, here we are today, Joseph being thrown into prison where the king's prisoners were confined. But notice, Joseph in prison found favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the leadership insight we can take from that, your reputation can precede you, and it can serve you well, even in difficult times. Remember, as we've learned from the last couple of lessons, not everything in life happens as you want it to, and not everything is always in your control. The best laid plans of mice and men can be hijacked, detoured, or halted because of the actions of an individual who falsely accuses you. But even when that happens, your reputation can still grant you favor. And that's why living a life of integrity and being consistent in the way you live your life, holding to your non-negotiables, clinging to those morals and values that make you who you are, is so important. Let's move on. Genesis chapter 40, verses 1 through 4. I'm going to paraphrase and not read the entire passage. Sometime later, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their master. Now, Pharaoh was angry and he put them in prison, and they ended up in the same prison where Joseph was confined. So the captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, and he attended them. Now, when you think about what just happened, here's a leadership insight from that. You never know who is going to come across your path that you're going to have the opportunity as a leader to influence. Here, Joseph in prison, sequestered from an opportunity to be around anyone else, and was mostly in prison with other prisoners who had offended the king or violated the laws of Egypt, now finds himself in the presence of two very influential individuals. So the lesson from that is this: you never know who you're going to come across the path that you can influence. And you may find yourself being introduced to individuals who themselves have influence, who want and need your leadership, your guidance, or your help. And as you're having interactions with people, no matter where you find yourself, understand this: you don't know who you're going to be introduced to and what influence they have, and who they may be able to introduce you to or influence on your behalf later on. Now, let's continue this week's lesson. Genesis chapter 40, verses 5 through 8. And again, I'm going to compress the text because it's pretty long. Each of the two men had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. When Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw they were dejected. So he asked, "Why do you look so sad today?" "We both had dreams," they answered, "but there is no one to interpret them." Notice what happened. The opportunity to step into that leadership role and to influence people can present itself just about anywhere. So not only can your reputation precede you and serve you well, even in difficult times, and you never know who's going to come across your path that you can influence, here's what you need to understand. When people trust you, they will confide in you. And when people are troubled or need your assistance, they're going to seek you out for guidance and advice. Because when people are struggling, they need help, they need assistance, they need guidance, they need someone to tell them what to do. They're going to look for a trusted source, a confidant that they can find, that they can lean into, that they know is going to give them sage advice that's going to help them in their time of struggle. Genesis chapter 40, verses 8 through 20. And again, rather than breaking down that entire long text, let me summarize. Then Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream. And you can learn what he dreamed in Genesis chapter 40. But then Joseph adds, "This is what it means." And then Joseph explains the meaning of the dream. Now, when the chief baker saw that Joseph had given a favorable interpretation to the cupbearer, he said to Joseph, "I too had a dream." And he goes on to explain his dream in great detail and looks to Joseph for an answer. And again, Joseph replies, "This is what it means." Now, to wrap up the end of that chapter, we see that exactly what Joseph said would come to pass came to pass. The cupbearer was restored to his position as the cupbearer of the king. The baker, having seen his dream interpreted and finding out that he was going to be killed, actually had himself killed when the Pharaoh brought before him the cupbearer and the baker. So what do we learn from this leadership insight? Let's go back and look at what we learned today. Your reputation can precede you, and it can serve you well, even in difficult times. Remember, not everything is always in your control, and your plans could be hijacked, or you could have a detour because someone falsely accuses you. But even then, your reputation can grant you favor. And that's why that integrity, being a man or woman of your word, is so important. Point number 2, you never know who you're going to come across that you may be able to influence that also has influence, and at some point in time may be able to influence others on your behalf. We know that when people trust you, they're willing to confide in you because when they're troubled, they seek a knowledgeable, trusted source for help. And if they trust you and they have confidence in you, that's who they turn to. And the last point that we can pull from today's lesson is this: your setback may very well be the setup for your next big opportunity. Remember, the people that you help know other people who want and need your help as well. Those individuals, if you serve them well, can become referral sources for you and make introductions to other people that you may want or need to know, and have an opportunity from that to influence them as well. So don't forget the law of reciprocity. The law of reciprocity says when you do something kind or you do something good or meaningful for someone else, they want to reciprocate in like measure, and often in greater measure. So those you help are more likely to also help you. And we'll see how this particular law of reciprocity plays out in next week's Leadership Insight from the Bible. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed today's leadership lesson from the Bible. And if you want more leadership lessons, faith-based or non-faith-based, you can follow me on YouTube. My channel is Be a Black Belt Leader. If you're a Rumble fan, same channel there, Be a Black Belt Leader. Now, if you are a person of faith and you like faith-based lessons, let me also invite you to visit my website, beablackbeltleader.com. Go to the courses section of the site, and you'll find a free email series that you can sign up for called the Top 10 Leadership Lessons from the Bible. It is a series of lessons pulled from the scriptures, spanning a variety of different books of the Bible, where we have an opportunity to pull and glean some important leadership lessons from the Bible. And while you're there, let me encourage you to peruse the other courses and content that's available on my website. You'll find a lot of free and paid content that's available to you there. That's beablackbeltleader.com. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe to my weekly newsletter as well as my podcast, and you can follow me on all of my social media channels. You'll find all of those resources at beablackbeltleader.com. Hey, I'm Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Thanks for joining me for this Words of Wisdom Wednesday as we take a look at leadership insights from the Bible. Have a great day.